What is the secret code to Charli XCX's success, and what are her hidden talents that helped her to achieve this major breakthrough with her album Brat, and finally gain this really strong personal brand where she is really dominant in the industry? In this video, I will do a numerology analysis of Charli XCX. So this means that I will take her date of birth and use a formula to figure out what her talents are, what her strengths are, what are the key aspects of her personality that she really needs to lean into, and also what are the karmic lessons that she had to go through in order to fully step into her creative potential. When I looked into her numbers, I was so shocked to see how accurate they all were and how much she has leaned into them, especially with her Brat album. We will also look at her evolution in the musical industry and see how she was eventually able to step into the iconic star that she is today. For those of you that are new, my name is Sabina and I'm a numerologist, and on this channel I aim to help people find themselves, step into an aligned life where they find their purpose, they're able to step into their confident self using mainly numerology but spiritual insights in general. I'm very excited to do this video because it shows you how you can use numerology to create a personal brand, and how your numbers and the lessons that they carry can actually help you to align with your authentic self. So if you're new to numerology, just know that this is not about fortune telling. This can actually be used in business, and it could be used to create your best authentic persona and use it in social media, use it in your business, perhaps find your hidden talents to use in projects, and you can apply it to all areas of life. A big shout out to Bike Haley. She does the most amazing personal branding breakdowns from a marketing and business perspective, and she did one on Charli XCX, which really inspired me, and I could not help but dive into the numerology side of Charli XCX's success. I am in no way copying the concept or the video and the script and what was said. I hope that my shout out proves this, and I will look at it from the numerology perspective anyways. Let's begin by just briefly going over Charli XCX's history and career journey. I remember Charli XCX from the song Fancy with Iggy Azalea, and definitely remember Boom Clap, and also I Love It with Icona Pop. So absolutely, Charli XCX had visibility and that critical acclaim, especially from collaborating with other big artists, and she has definitely stayed in cultural conversations and has really built a fan base over the years. The songs that I mentioned were from around 2012 to 2013, and that was when she really started to gain visibility. However, it is safe to say that Charli XCX has not had a dominance in the scene with her own name and her solo era. And her album Brat in 2024 became that pivotal point in her career where finally she stepped into her main character energy. She was able to find her authentic voice and her personal brand, which became so strong. She really nailed the marketing and business strategy side of it, but I want to show you the unseen side, which is her hidden potential, and this is the beauty of numerology. It shows us things that are not so obvious, and it actually links different aspects of one's identity and the way they behave to what they end up attracting. So for example, numerology can show us that you've got potential to be this, or you've got this talent, but you're not able to fully step into that until you make changes in this aspect of yourself or your life. And so it shows us that things are interconnected, and you can actually start to activate the positive sides of a number by doing certain things. This is Charlie's personality triangle. Now, this personality triangle actually shows us not only her character traits, but also the talents. And this is such an important triangle for us to work on because this does affect all areas of life. And of course, your identity is the first thing that you really need to get clear on and work through in order to establish yourself, find your authentic self, and really know who you are in life before you move on to the other spheres. By the way, this is worked out using a special formula, but the top number represents the day that you were born on. Charli XCX was born on the 2nd of August in 1992. Straight away, this is the code of singers. Number twos are great at using their voice, they are great at communicating, they're great with words. But funnily enough, the problem that people with the number two face is that they find it hard to be solo. They find it hard to be independent and to take the spotlight for themselves because they're very dependent on others. But in the case of Charli, I'm sure she wanted to have her solo moment even at the start of her career, and it wasn't always a matter of choice that she chose to collaborate at the start of her career. And here is where the more karmic side of the numbers come into play. So when I say karmic, to sum it up, I mean this is something that you need to learn kind of the hard way until you finally reach that what you want or reach your fullest potential. So in Charli's case, while she may have wanted to be solo and to be recognized as a dominant solo artist, maybe she faced dependency in her personal life or the way that she was used to navigating in the world, where she would always wait on others to advise her, or she would always try and lean into what other people thought rather than really stepping into her own independent power and really going for something that she truly believed. I don't know what Charli is like in her personal life, and I'm not sure we all have that information, but this is one of the explanations. But it's safe to say that being sort of in the shadow of other artists has been something that Charli XCX faced throughout her career up until 2024. And with the number two being the dominant number in her chart because it's at the top, this is no surprise. Perhaps deep down she still relied on the opinions of others or to get the green light from others, and she also didn't feel safe at nervous system level to step into the spotlight by herself. The numbers can often show us what we are bound by, and in the case of number twos, it's that dependency. I acknowledge that being an artist can sometimes be limiting in that you do what the label says you need to do and you're constricted by these industry pressures. But it's great to see that Charli was able to achieve that independence, and maybe the journey was long, but it's great to see that Charli did reach her independence in the end. Next, let's look at the number 12. Now you can see she's got two number 12s and two number 10s, and not everyone has repeating numbers. Some people have 6 different numbers. All this means is that she has to try extra hard to really work through these numbers, but when she does, they bring her so much potential and bring her a double dose of the gifts that these numbers carry. The number 12 is a very expressive and creative number in itself, and people with this number have a unique vision. They can look at things from a completely different perspective because this is the number of the Hanged Man. And yes, in the numerology that I use, the numbers are linked to the major arcana in tarot. The number 12 also talks about being a victim and being too self-sacrificing. And I think that we can absolutely see this happening throughout Charli's career. You know, with the I Love You song by Icona Pop, she wrote the song, or at least she definitely co-wrote it, but I'm sure she had a really big input. But she didn't really get that credit, and the song was more associated with Icona Pop. And whilst it seems like it was Charli's decision because she felt like it didn't represent her as an artist in her own unique way, it's still a matter of Charli doing the work and letting someone else have the credit. And the number 12 confirms that, yes, even though you made this decision, somewhere in the back of your mind, you have this pattern and this program that tells you you need to serve others and be a force in other people's success, but not always claim the credit for yourself. Firstly, I will look at the lessons that Charli had to learn and the karmic mission of each number, and I will briefly run through some of her career moments to see how she might have exhibited these numbers in a more struggling kind of way. And I think this is where the negative side of the number 12 really comes into play. However, I don't want to completely polarize the energies of the number, because the truth is we need to experience the more limiting sides of the number, and it's actually impossible to completely eliminate the negative sides because it's two sides of the same coin. But it actually really helps us to learn the lessons that we need to, and it is when we go through that we are able to fully step into our power and really enjoy the strengths that the number gives. If you are interested in figuring out your strengths, your talents, or perhaps you want to build a strong personal brand for your social media or your business, then I invite you to book a reading with me to find your personal code to your personality and your talents. And actually, if you want a free discovery call first, then I also offer that. So this will all be in the link in the description. The interesting thing about the number 2 is that they often find themselves in a conflict where they are indecisive, and they are in a conflict between two sides of their personality. And this is highlighted by Charli's struggle with being an underground left artist, as she says, versus a mainstream pop artist. I do think that the energies of the two, where you are waiting on others to approve and to tell you what to do rather than be a leader, and the energy of the number 12 for your very self-sacrificing, are what contributed to her falling under pressure of what the industry wants, of what the labels thought you needed to be. Because you can imagine, of course, labels would rather you be mainstream and more of a pop culture star because there's less risk, it decreases financial risk, it keeps you in the scene, it keeps you on radio rotation. Next, as you can see, she's got two number 10s. Number 10 belongs to the category of number 1, 10, 19, and 28, because when you add the digits together, you get the number 1. So they all hold the energy of a leader, of someone that needs to step into their independent power and also be more innovative and bring new ideas into the mix. And absolutely, Charli was able to do that. But first, let's look at what may have held her back and what are some of the lessons that she needed to learn. So what makes the number 10 different to the other number 1s is that it is the Wheel of Fortune, and that's the symbolism of it. Now, this wheel needs to spin. People with this number can find themselves struggling to settle down and to decide on something, and they're constantly moving from one thing to the next. And in Charli's case, it was finding that unique, authentic voice and really sticking at it. But of course, with the creative process and in an artist's journey, this is not just something that you can do overnight. It's absolutely normal to go through a long process of trial and error. The other thing that the number 10 struggle with is their lack of freedom. Freedom is very important for the number 10 to achieve. It's something that they love, but it looks like Charli did not have that at the start of her career. Pressures from the label, trying to fit in with mainstream pop culture would have really limited her true authentic voice. For Charli, it was a case of finding your unique brand, voice, creativity, and really settling down with that, but also using the energy of the leader to really stand your ground and really push for your own unique independent vision rather than listening to other people. Next, we have the number 20. Now, the fact that this number 20 is at the bottom tells us that this is a major risky number that you really need to make sure that you work through, because it's a major mistake that you can make. Now, this number was played out really nicely by Charli, and whilst she may have exhibited the more restrictive and negative sides of the number, these were actually the very things that she needed to go through in order to finally fulfill the mission that this number carries and ultimately bring her success. So 20 is actually similar to the number 2 because they're both number 2s. But what makes the number 20 different is that it's all about community and bringing people together, but also being able to mold into different groups. And how interesting, because that is exactly what Charli was doing at the start of her career. She was very much focused on collaboration. Yes, she did have her own singles and albums, but she got more of that visibility and fame through collaborating with other big artists. And that is not a bad thing, not at all. I think that has definitely helped to boost her career for visibility, for critical acclaim, and to stay on the radar and stay visible in the pop culture musical scene. So I think that is definitely a strength. It's then a matter of, well, do you stay in that? Because if you do, then it means that you'll never establish yourself as a solo iconic artist. And so there is a really big risk that you're always going to be lost among all of the different groups. And you also risk molding yourself into other groups rather than finding your unique voice. Whilst collaborations is a really good strategy for reach and visibility, I do think that it's something that Charli genuinely enjoyed, and I know that she worked with the producer Sophie and the PC Music Collective, where the culture was very much community. It was not egocentric, and it's a very nice idea because collaboration can bring about innovation and letting different voices and styles be heard. So I don't think that collaborations were only ever a compromise that she had to do in order to stay visible. I do think that it was very much part of her creative exploration, and it's great that she did that because we can see in her triangle, this is something that she needs to gather and that she needs to learn from, and undoubtedly this has brought her the creative success that we see. Because what does the number 20 do well? It is great at combining different styles, different skills together, because remember, it's all about community, it's all about being this intermediary, but also being able to try out different things and ultimately bring them together. Let's now look at how Charli utilized the strengths of the number. I'm just going to work backwards. So we ended with the number 20. And so after all of the collaboration, she was then able to digest everything that she had tried. And she was able to then create her own unique style, voice, brand. And so there is a lot of power to be had in going through the energy of the number 20. Next, the number 12 is someone who has a very unique perspective on things, and this is absolutely something that Charli has brought about in her album Brat. I mean, the color green was very unique. It's not a conventional pretty shade of green that you would think to use. And Charli said she picked the color herself, and everyone was against it, her friends, her manager, and everyone she was working with, but she held her ground, and it became so iconic to the point that even apparently fashion houses are using this color. And of course it was a really big viral marketing success. So this has really become something that defined her personal brand, and it was her trust in her unique vision that helped her to establish this personal brand. She was clearly able to overcome the self-sacrificing energy of the number 12, and with her album Brat, she did say that this was purely going to be for her. She was no longer going to fall under the pressure of mainstream pop culture or the opinions of others that she was working with, and she made it clear that she doesn't care if this flops or not. She's going to enjoy it, and it's going to be a unique and true expression of who she is. And that served her very well, and no surprise, because that is what the number 12 has to overcome. The number 2 in Charli's Numerology chart was already very strong. She was using her voice, she's in the singing industry, but the other strength of the number 2 that Charli really stepped into, especially in her album Brat, was speaking to people's emotions. People with the number 2 are very empathetic, they are very emotionally connected, and they understand what they need to say in order to really move you and affect you. They have the gift of understanding how they can influence you through your emotions. And the Brat album really did speak to so many people. There are so many songs with different topics that appeal to people in the way that they are deep, in the way that they highlight a lot of the insecurities and pain points that people have. And actually circling back to the number 20, which was more about connecting different ideas and skills together, what the Brat album did really well ultimately is it connected this trashy party girl style with a more emotionally moving voice through the lyrics. And so this is a really great combination of two completely different worlds, and became such a statement in her art, and also established a very strong, unique, and memorable personal brand. Let me know in the comments if this all made sense, and if you really see the energies of the numbers play out in Charli's music and in her career history. And thank you so much for watching. I hope that I inspired you to look into numerology deeper.